Welcome back to Mage Knight and another game of Lost Relic. After losing the last one and doing a post-mortem, I'm not through the review yet, but I think I have enough insight already that I am eager to dive into another game. I've rolled for heroes and it came up with Goldyx and Krang, so I'm going with Goldyx, Krang as a dummy. And as usual with Lost Relic, we start with leveling. So we are level 3 with 9 fame. Have 18 influence to buy advanced actions. 1 will be free. Advanced action costs 6. Units cost the influence. Spells 7 and a crystal or 9. Artifacts 12 and crystals cost 3. If I do not spend everything, I get a fame as a bonus. With this scenario, I'm always tempted to go for a movement skill, and I still think this is a good idea because you do have to explore 3 countryside tiles, not necessarily in this position, it's just for optical reasons, and then at least 2 of the 3 core tiles to find the cities. And all this in 2 rounds, so any help with movement, reducing costs of terrain and so on is really welcome. We do have the choice between Song of Wind and Mountain Lore, and I am actually tempted to just pick Mountain Lore just to not get tempted by Song of Wind again. If you take these movement cost reduction skills, you are really tempted to make one glorious turn where you spend all your movement, but the downside really is that you most likely will not power all your movement cards, so you will squander movement points, and you have to make up with this with the movement point reduction. And if you spend a lot of movement in a single turn, obviously you will not move spread out over your turns. So if your first round, for example, has 6 turns, you usually would move in at least 4 of them, and you can use the source to your advantage to power most of your movement cards. And in this sense, Song of Wind only gives you 2 movement points, and it only really works if you can glide over plains, lakes, or make the most out of the reduction of wasteland and desert. And especially in the first round, desert and wasteland is not actually that good, because desert is 5 and wasteland only appears on the core tiles most likely. So Mountain Lore is just a skill that gives you 3 and 5 movement points, so quite solid, and it stands on its own and doesn't tempt you in this sense. But we do have to also consider mana. Last time I really went out of mana quite quickly. And we do have the choice between Motivation, which gives a green mana, and the White Crystal Craft, which gives a blue crystal and a white mana. And this is actually 2 mana, and seeing that there's a Snowstorm again, I am somewhat tempted to go for a Snowstorm and use the synergy that I can actually provide myself with a blue crystal, which would mean that the white token could be spent on Song of Wind. If I go for Motivation, the argument would be different because then I can just power Mountain Lore instead. The other advanced actions are Maximal Effect, interesting, but I'm not sure I would take it over a movement card. Diplomacy, which is also interesting, because the unit offer is really bad. It has 2 Herbalists, 1 Peasant and a Thug, which means there are no really good level 2 units here. Actually, there's none. So do I actually want to fill 2 slots with 2 level 1 units? If not, this is also a key learning of the last match, you are kind of obligated to hire somewhere. I did not end up hiring anything in the last match, and that ended up being very bad for me. So do I really want to have to hire? And if I do, what if my influence cards come out in a bad order? So picking up Thugs, for example, that can produce influence 4 even though they tank my reputation, but I don't think that's relevant in this scenario. They could replace themselves quite easily. The same somewhat goes for Peasants, but they're quite expensive, especially in comparison to the Herbalists, which provide you with raiding other units, mana or heal. The advanced extra offer also has Swift Bolt, but back to the Diplomacy, so this would be a card that gives me more chances to hire, and it could double as a block card where I can actually choose the element, which for some dragons might really be the difference between being able to block them and not being able to block them. Finally, there's a Swift Bolt in the offer, which is ranged attack, but I learned the hard way last game also that if you have 3 cards that provide ranged attack only with mana, you need a lot of mana, obviously. And where is this coming from? As for the spells, there is a Snowstorm, which I should probably have picked up in the last game rather than Expose, because it does just provide much more attack, like 5 and 8 instead of 2. The Whirlwind is interesting, but it only works at night to actually kill stuff. So if my goal is still to attempt the first dragon at day, I can just cancel its attack, but that's it. The Underground Travel is a movement spell, and quite a good one, and especially in rough terrain that will be a lot of movement. 3 revealed spaces for 1 green mana, that's insanely good. But it doesn't help at all with killing the dragons, and seeing that the units do not help with providing attack, and the cards don't help with providing attack, besides Maximal Effect, I do think I have to pick up Snowstorm probably. The artifacts are the Golden Grail, so healing, but then there are so many Herbalists that I should probably go for them for healing. And the Soul Harvester, which is not that much attack unless I'm breaking it. 8 attack is really good, but 12 influence would be the better part of what I can actually take here. So I would have only 6 influence left to actually pick up other stuff. Goldyx does start with green and blue, which also favors the snowstorm and the herbalists, and mountain law maybe. If I take motivation, it also heavily favors green, and with the potion making, it's blue and white, obviously. And I'm somewhat tempted to go with potion making just for the 2 mana. Make sure that I can use Snowstorm twice and have a way to power the Song of Wind, which I still think is a good skill. I did have problems in the last game, even though I had enough turns to actually go through my deck. In the second round, I think mostly due to the fact that I had the cards that I actually want to play and need to play to win the scenario in my hand at a time where I could not play them, so they're just blocking up my hand. Motivation could help with this, but I'm not sure it's a solution for this. One thing I also realized is that if I go for relaxed games, I will lose more of them than I'm used to, because the downside of not thinking too much is that you run into situations that you could have foreseen. And that's actually what I love about Mage Knight, but this is also what makes the usual sessions so long. And I do want to have a shorter format like this. This is also why I'm playing Lost Relic. But currently I also like it because of this leveling process. This is really interesting. That's nothing that Mage Knight usually offers. And I'm actually tempted to, if I win this again, to tinker a bit with the difficulty. For example, starting at level 4, where you actually have the choice between 2 skills, especially maybe starting at level 4, which means that you are getting 2 skill choices. I'm not sure how this would work if you see the 2 choices per level and then you can choose one of them while seeing them all, or if you really have to level one by one. Again, I'm also not sure that I can actually pick this before seeing all this. But I think that makes it much more fun, and going to level 4 would actually be much more interesting because you get 2 advanced actions for free. You do have 24 influence and you have much more skill choices, which makes you much more powerful, of course, so you would have to compensate for that. But I think that's easy enough by just adding enemies to the Draconums. But let's stick with the default rules for now, and I do think we need to get going. So let's eliminate stuff that I do not want to take, which is the Soul Harvester and the Golden Grail, so I'm not taking an artifact. I'm heavily leaning towards the Snowstorm and actually buying it for 9, so I do have the crystal to spare to actually cast it and maybe take this, but this is yet undecided. I also do think I should pick up Herbalist because they are quite flexible, providing mana, heal, or raiding another unit. But if they stay the only unit, then this is not working out as last game. Nevertheless, I like them a lot, and it would only be 3 influence, so we are at 12. And having 5 left, I'm actually tempted to pick up the Thugs, because they can replace themselves, and they have a solid block and attack. I cannot use the armor unless I spend influence. But I think this is already a good combination because I can use them twice, for example, or replace them with something else that I can then use twice, so we will see. And this totals to 17 influence, which means there's 1 influence left and we will actually get a fame. Which only leaves the decision of what advanced action to take for free and what skill to choose. And I do think I have to take Song of Wind or Mountain Lore. And maybe I do shy away from Song of Wind for this game and try my luck with Mountain Lore, seeing that I have a green crystal already, and this also means I can take the motivation over this, even though this is 2 mana, 2 cards are still quite valuable. But I have to take care that I'm not squandering the skill. But I feel this is a hard decision, but this would then be the combination I'm taking, which would also mean I could heal, for example, with motivation. So I do think this has some synergy, but I do need to take care that I actually get the crystals or the mana I need for casting the spell. And it will come down to the choice of dragons, of course, if this is a wise choice, but it might be still worthwhile in the first day. So I hope I didn't screw up already, making the wrong choices again. But let's go with this and do the setup. So this is the starting situation. Quite interesting offers, actually. We do have Steady Tempo as another movement card, but Into the Heat, so there would be a way to make a good unit strategy, and Decompose, which can solve a lot of mana issues, of course. For the spells, we have Tremor, Charm, and Space Bending. None, I think, which are quite that important currently, and there's no way to get a spell anyway. The unit offer is insane, so we have Shock Troops, Guardsmen, Foresters, or Illusionists. So 3 level 2 units and Foresters, which I do value quite highly. Especially if the Herbalist, that would be a really nice combination to be able to ready them, reduce the movement cost, get another movement, armor 4 and block. It's just so solid. As for the map, we do have both hags already out, as well as Ironclads, but again, these 2 are off position, and the first tile was rotated in a way that I cannot even access it, so that's quite interesting. I did not pick up Song of Wind, which would allow me to walk over the lakes. We do have a monastery where I can learn Firebolt, and it leads to the first hag, a blue mine and a green mine, 2 glades, a village, and again the hags at the side of the map. My opening hand is March, 2 Swiftness unfortunately, Crystal Joy and Tranquility. Usually you do not want to see Tranquility that early. Crystal Joy could be good, especially if I toss this card to just turn it into a crystal, seeing that I have Herbalists. I have a little bit of movement and I might have to play another Swiftness to increase my movement. The source came up red, red, gold and green, so that's nice, no depleted die, and I have all colors available. The dummy added Arcane Disguise to the offer, so an influence skill that also allows me to ignore reputation. Which brings us to tactic selection and making a plan for the first turn. Currently there's no keep on the map, so the shock troops cannot be hired. The foresters and the guardsmen can be hired at a village, which is extremely close because of the rotation of the tile by 180 degrees. Usually the village would have been here. So that could be a first stop, bringing me to a mine and or a glade. But then again, there's also the monastery where I can hire the illusionists, which leads up to the hags. That does not make me level in the scenario, unfortunately. I did forget to give me the fame from the leveling process, so we ended up with one less influence than we could have spent, which nets us a fame. So we do need 5 to level, and we have to remember that revealing these tiles gives 1 fame and revealing the cities gives a bonus fame. But I do think the most obvious choices would be either to go for the village or to go through the monastery. We do not have any influence, so hiring at both places is not possible currently, but we do have the thugs, of course. One opening move could be to visit the village with a powered march, then use the thugs with a sideways card to come up with 5 influence and replace the thugs with the foresters. But that would cost 1 turn, positioning me here, so I'm not really progressing to explore the map. I could also pick up the guardsmen, of course, they are of the same cost. The other option is to play the march with a green die from the source and a sideways card to produce movement 5 to reach the monastery. But I cannot kill the hags currently unless I'm willing to use both swiftness, but I do not even have one single white mana. I don't think it is a good use of my mana. I could block them, of course, but I do not even have any attack to speak of, which would mean that if I reach the monastery, I would have to end the turn, see what I draw up, and then either hire, kill the hags if I draw concentration, or burn down the monastery right away. This is risky, as we found out last game too, and I went for this in all of the games to go to the dungeon or monastery to try and get an easy artifact or spell. But if it's not turning out that easy, it will really set you back, and in a 2-round game you don't have that much time to recover from this. You will still usually get the artifact or the spell, so it's not wasted, but if you can't deal with the wounds, like in the last game again, then you're kind of screwed. So this time we should really hold on to the herbalists, so we can heal with motivation or the crystal after getting wounded if it doesn't work out the way we want. But the problem is if I move here and I neither get enough range damage to kill the hags or the influence to hire, or do not feel confident enough to burn it down, what do we do then? Because moving here would then provoke them, and moving here would have been quite inefficient. I should probably think about what unit I actually want. If I go to the monastery, I will have the 4 influence here, and this is only 3 more, so pulling either threaten or promise will actually be enough, even an improvisation. But do I want the illusionist? I feel like they are good because they can prevent the attack of the dragon, so I only in quotes have to come up with the attack to kill it. It can also give me a crystal, and it also gives me influence to, for example, upgrade the herbalist later. And they can help with dealing with the odd attack of an orc that's surrounding the draconums in the city, because they are physical resistant. 6 influence would also give me the firebolt, but I'm not sure it's worth it. It's costing mana, it's range attack, but it might be useless against the dragons depending on its resistances. So I think I'd rather take the illusionists than the firebolt. So I try to keep the thinking a little bit lower than I'm used to, but I don't want to rush it and just lose the game. But I think we have strategized enough. I think going here brings me more into the exploration direction. Although it does mean we have to kill the hags basically, otherwise we can't really continue. But the mine is in a nice position to actually reveal more tiles, get me blue crystals, which is nice for the snowstorm. There's a green mine of course too, but it's only adjacent to 1 tile. This is adjacent to 2. I do think overall this is the better direction. And if I can pick up an artifact, that would be really nice. And I do have these swiftnesses already, so maybe I can crystallize the gold into a white crystal and actually keep it in hand by tossing the tranquility, for example. Maybe that's the way to go here. Which brings me to the tactics. So having the swiftness might not be the worst thing in the world to have the ranged attack. March I need. Crystal Joy can provide me with the white mana maybe. Well, I can just use the gold die of course as white. And Tranquility I could toss with Crystal Joy. That's the whole stick of Goldyx version, that you can discard another card. Which does mean Rethink is probably not that interesting, because I really do not need to exchange that many cards or any at all. Maybe getting rid of 1 swiftness would be an idea. Mana Steal would be really good, because then I could steal the green to power the march and still crystallize the gold. Planning is always welcome, but it risks me going after the dummy. Great start I don't think I want in this case, because I do want to rest at the monastery, reroll the source, and then see what happens. So I do think the choice is between Mana Steal and Planning, and I'm leaning towards Mana Steal because it gives me a good turn 1 and a slightly better chance to have one more turn than a dummy. Let's try it and see what happens. We are stealing the green die then to use it right away, and a dummy has a 3-2 chance to go after me. So let's see what he picks. It's Rethink, unfortunately, so it goes before me. But it's the chance I took. Which does mean Krang is before Goldyx. And he plays his first turn, which is blue, green, and white, which is a short turn. But we haven't eliminated any red cards, unfortunately. And in our first turn, we do want to use the March. For movement 4, Goldyx steps through the portal into the forest for movement 3. So we do need another point of movement. And at that point, I'm not sure I actually want to hold on to Crystal Joy. So maybe we just use this for the movement 5 to reach the monastery. And then use the gold die with Crystal Joy to get a white crystal so we know we can actually power the swiftness. If we pull concentration, it won't be a problem to power. But if not, we do want to build up some range attack. That would play 3 cards. We would draw 3. And in contrast to the last 2 games, this is a short first turn, but I think it's a solid one. We reroll 2 source die and am in a good position to higher burn down or just kill the hex. So we leave it at that, reroll these dice. Both come up blue, unfortunately. And our replacement cards are another March, a Mountain Law, so even more movement, but also Snowstorm. That might be perfect. We do have 2 blue in the source, and keeping this to the first dragon is just hoping for too much. So that's the first turn. The dummy plays his second turn. White, green, and another white. So again a short turn, but again no red cards. So I'm getting a bit nervous. So what do we do in our second turn? So this gives us a combined range attack of 8 already with an elemental attack in it. So I do think burning down the monastery is really safe. We could of course kill the hex, but I do think we should pick up the artifact, which does mean we could not pick up the illusionists. But that's the problem if we have no influence in hand. So we have 4 here. We could actually ready them to produce more, but we could have done this last turn. This is the problem if you play too fast. That would have been a nice play. That would have used both units by we replace one with the illusionist, and it would not waste another turn. But it would somewhat violate the principle to not use the herbalist too early, so I can actually heal wounds if I need to. So do we spend another turn to do this, or do we just take the artifact and go from there? Which means that we cannot hire the illusionist, but we do have 2 units, so there's no rush in replacing them. Yeah, I do think we just need to burn it down now. We tank our reputation to -1, but overall that's not the biggest deal, I think. It might mean that we are only playing 1 card though, and I'm already thinking about the next turn because we do have to kill the hex then as well, and we can only get here, and we will provoke them and be stopped, or we actually have to move around. But I do think we want to say the artifact, see what it is. So let's burn down the monastery. So again, we try this. We are at -1 then, and we are drawing a Mage Tower Defender. And of course we cannot use our units, but I hope this is actually enough firepower. But they might be ice resistant, of course. And defenders of the monastery are Magic Familiars. I do think we then just use the Snowstorm and the crystal we just got for a range attack of 8, which just kills them. I think this is good enough. And I don't see me solving this in any other way without units, so let's just go with this. We reroll 1 source die, that's nice. We do lose the crystal, but this is exactly what we prepared for. And this actually lets us level, which is also really good. So these are killed. We are at 15 fame +1, so 16 due to the scenario rules. The crystal is gone. These are discarded. The dice rerolled. Unfortunately comes up black, so no luck in getting white or green, which would be really nice to power those, but we do have the motivation, of course. And now we get the combat result first, which does mean we mark the monastery with our shield and draw 2 artifacts. There's the Endless Gem Pouch, I really like that, and an Amulet of Darkness, which is also really nice. So it's pretty much the card that allows you to play a spell for its powered version at day. You can also modify the move cost, of course, but it makes it so Night Rule Supply and you actually get your black mana, which would mean that we could use Blizzard at day, but we already cast our spell. Whereas the Gem Pouch gives you 2 crystals, and if you break it, you actually get a lot of mana, which should solve the mana problems in the end of the game when killing the dragons. Seeing that I do not have another spell, and it will be night when I cast it again, and there's currently no source of a spell, I probably should go with this. Yeah, I do think having mana for regular stuff is worth it, so let's take this. Which then brings us to the level up, and the skill choice is between the source opening of Goldyx, so the cooperative skill, which means that I can reroll a source die and in my next turn in solo, I am the other player, can return this to me so I can use an extra source die and give me a crystal of that color. So it's a mana skill. And we do have the freezing power, which is a siege, physical or ice attack of 1, which is solid because it's the odd number that you often miss. I can of course also take the Arcane Disguise to get more influence, and this could also allow me to assign damage to the thugs, and they are level 1, have an armor of 5, so that's an awesome combination. The question is, do I want Decompose, Into the Heat or Steady Tempo? I feel like I have a movement skill already, so I'm not sure I want to pick up Steady Tempo. The dummy will pick up most likely a red card anyway, no matter if I pick Decompose or Into the Heat, so that's a bit sad, but he will pick up a blue crystal. I just got the Gem Pouch, so Decompose sounds a little bit bad, but the question is if Into the Heat is worth it looking at my current units. But it would mean that the thugs alone have an attack of 5, and if I replace them with anything that can produce attack, even the guardsman for example, that would be another attack of 4, and if I power Into the Heat it's even more. Or do I pick up the boring card of Steady Tempo instead, which is just the stamina which comes back if I even have that many turns. I don't think I will see it again, but I can place it on top of my deck. And I do have another blue in the source. I don't think I want to take this. I think that's just too complicated for what it's achieving. It will be mana, of course, but I, again, just picked up an Endless Gem Pouch and I can pick Decompose if I'm really going for mana. Last game I really regretted not taking Combat Power, because if you can't produce Combat Power just from skills, you're really at 0 even if you just want to kill something trivial. It will not allow me to kill the hacks, of course. The influence could allow me to build up a better army, but then I cannot actually take Into the Heat, so that's also out of the question. So maybe I'm picking up Steady Tempo after all and just loop around like this to explore here and just circumvent the hacks. But Into the Heat is attack power if I replace the Herbalist with something that can actually produce attack. If I open up the next slot, have 3 units with attack that can just kill a dragon on their own. I just have to survive the attack. It also means that the thugs alone will kill the hags, and I just have to come up with block 3. Yeah, I do want to try this. I do want to go for Into the Heat and maybe get a better army this time. I feel like the army is also something that makes your play more consistent, because you don't need to rely on the order of cards coming up, because it's just sitting there at the next night. So you can die for the dragon and you know your army is there. So let's do that. Let's take 1 attack here and even more attack with Into the Heat. Replacement advanced action is Refreshing Walk, a card I love. But that's it for the level up. So I do draw Into the Heat and the artifact. And it's again something that I should have realized will happen. But I think it's fine, and we can actually probably move here with the Mountain Lore, provoke them, use the Endless Gem Pouch, kill them. We are not actually that fast currently, but we will have a higher hand limit at least. But that's the second turn, and the dummy plays his third, which is blue, blue, and a red. So this is the first appearance of red. This is what I was afraid of. So 2 more cards, so a green, and at least 1 more red. Okay, which means we can play our third turn, and we definitely do not break this. So we are rolling a mana die 2 times. First is white, second is blue, which I do think is quite nice. So this is taken care of. So again, by playing a little bit fast and not playing through the next turn, where I actually would have known my cards, and I would have known that I do not draw anything, which I did not just pick up by leveling or by combat reward, we do not have a block 3 to actually block the hacks. So Into the Heat and the thugs is a nice plan, but it doesn't actually allow us to defeat them. We also do not have green, but we do have a green crystal and the motivation. So I'm not sure killing the hacks at that point is a good play. We can come up with move 9 here, which would bring us here. Or we are sitting on the Glade and actually exploring this tile, which is probably preferable because we then have a gold mana to power whatever cards come up then. But I do think we actually have to play the motivation now to get the token, and the additional cards might give us more options. We can... Actually, there is a source of spells. I think I claimed that there isn't on the map, but it was not actually reachable. And if I move there, I will actually provoke the hacks, and it's just the wrong positioning. It's just not moving forward. It feels just bad to play motivation for just getting the mana and then getting to 6 cards, having to play some and then the skill be already used. But I feel like if I get a mana draw, for example, or an improvisation, that it could actually be quite helpful. And we are lacking a lot of mana. And the dummy stack is growing thin, so it's 5 cards, so we must not hit another red, otherwise we will have 1 turn less. So I do think we have to get going, and the green mana is what moves us actually, so let's flip this. We get a green token and 2 cards. One is a rage, so that would be the block that we need to kill the hags, and the other is a promise. I feel like moving here with the mountain law is just better, so maybe we take a turn to kill the hags now that we have the rage, and we can use the promise sideways because it's currently not helpful. That would mean that we have the block 3 we need, and into the heat with the thugs will give us an attack of 5, which does kill the hags, and we would draw 2 cards. But we would not need the token then, that's the only problem here. So it would be squandered. But moving here is just so inefficient in comparison. We could reach the mine to get a token back, but then we can only explore this. And then we would have to move here to explore further. Of course, there would be a countryside tile if I do it in this order. With this open, I think it's much more natural to explore, and we do have a nice mine here. Although it's blue, and we do already have 2 blue crystals. We didn't actually use a mana die here as well, so I do want to reroll red, and this actually means that this would be 5 attack, and this is block 3, so we do not even need this. Rampaging orcs are really annoying in this scenario. But the problem really is that movement 9 brings me here, and I haven't even explored anything, where movement 9 brings me here with 5, and I actually have explored both spaces with the same movement cost. So this is why it's just so inefficient to go this way. The motivation does allow me to kill them, but it does mean the mana is wasted, but I do have the green here. But I would only play 2 cards, so I'm drawing just 1. I could of course toss into the heat or incorporate it into the battle just to get rid of it. If I'm not readying the thugs, then holding on to this doesn't make any sense because the herbalists have nothing that can be improved, but I can ready them. So I can get another attack 6 for example if I hold on to this. So if we defeat them now, the dummy might exhaust his deck, and we have 2 more turns, 1 to reveal 2 tiles then. And if we want to get to the core tiles, we would really have to explore 2 more tiles in a single turn. If he does not exhaust his deck, we have 2 more turns after that. But I think going this is just too inefficient. Actually, we do have the freezing power as well, so I would not even need a promise. So at that point, I wouldn't even draw a card. Yeah, I do think I need to play my deck. I think that's the main problem here with killing the hags, that I'm just not moving. I would even consider going to the mine and kill them, because it's still 1 turn, and it's easy enough to kill them with just 1 card. But even if I power this and power this, it's just 9. Actually, I do have 10, 11, and I would even get to 13. And I only need 12 to get there. But I should really make a rest here, but then I would not play this card again. The hand limit increase I only get if I ended a mine, that's the problem. So 3, 6, 8 to explore, 11, 14. I can get there if I'm not playing the rage. So if I play these 3 sideways, I would then have explored 1, sitting on a mine, have a hand limit increase and can explore 2 more tiles right away, but I would not kill the hags. But I would also not have used the thugs. I do think at the first day you really have to explore and get going. Going here would be 9, exploring 2 tiles would be 13 as well. But I would not be sitting on a hill then. And I think it's better to pick up the crystal, power another stamina, and be in position to reveal the rest of the countryside tiles. I mean, I do think we need to use the motivation mana and get going. Do I use the herbalist after all to hold on to the green crystal? Because it kind of means that I can turn this into a green crystal instead of a token. But I could not ready the unit, but currently this is not actually important. If I'm tossing this, the thugs are no longer that important. I think if I can explore something to actually hire with the thugs, it would probably be the way to go than replacing the herbalist. And I do have threat and improvisation coming up, so readying them to get influence 8 should not be necessary. So I do think I produce a green mana with the herbalist to have movement 9. Use 6 of the movement to get to the glade. And again, if I'm revealing rampaging enemies here, I might not be able to continue. So I should probably go here. I do not want to stop there anyway. And I think I should just use the swiftness then to explore. That's just exactly the 2 points I need. So 3, 6, 9, that's these. 2 to explore. And I do want to hold on to the red cards because I do have red mana, but I do not have white. And the promise might be useful if I explore something where I actually want to hire because it's already 6 influence then. So let's reveal this tile. But again, since the original pile would have been in another order, we are swapping this. And this is not a good tile, I guess. Die comes up green, so rotate it twice. So it's rotating the city towards me, but it's in a swamp anyway. I do get a fame from this. And we do have a village with outriders, an altar with 2 mage tower units for a spell, and an advanced action card, and another glade. But I do not think I want to visit this tile. So if I go to the mine with all these cards, I will get a hand limit increase and a crystal, and I will be in position to reveal these 2 tiles. And I do think I want to do this. So I'm playing these sideways. I have a far too thick deck anyway. There's 3 more movement getting me here. I get a blue crystal, And I've played all my cards, finally. I cannot kill the Hex currently, so it would be quite efficient, but I can't, so this is all played. And I draw 5 cards, which is another Rage, a Mana draw, a Stamina, Improvisation, and a Threaten. Let's see what the dummy does in his 4th turn. So it's red, it's really good. White, so it's a 1 in 3 chance. It's not a red, so it's a blue, and we do have 1 more turn. So 1 extra turn, I mean, so we have 3 turns now. So our 4th turn, then he will exhaust his deck in the 5th and announce the end of round in the 6th. So I do think we want to explore these 2 tiles. That's a priority. That would be Stamina with a blue die. And we could still kill the Hex, of course, with these cards in the unit, but I don't think it's most pressing. Maybe we should try to move on, and this would be another movement 5. And I do have Mana draw to also pull a red. So there is some consideration if we should use a crystal instead of the die. And to be honest, I do think we should use improvisation to move, because there's not that much movement left. So let's do this with a crystal. I have more than enough here. And I do want to explore this tile first, because it might be an option to put the countryside tile here and then the core tile here. So the second countryside tile would have been this. So 2 of the movement points explores this. Die comes up green again. So from this orientation, rotate it twice. And there's a keep facing me. That's quite interesting. So there's a white crystal mine, a village, and a keep with guardsmen. So these guardsmen are actually defending the keep, which is not good. That's 7 attack. But I would have a movement point left, so that would bring me there. 7 could kill it. I could block it, so I would use everything. But I would not have the reputation too high. I would not have this too high, so it kind of defeats the purpose. But I cannot rush through here, so I will actually reveal the 3rd tile now. Actually, I did get a fame again. So 1 from leveling brought me to 10. 5 from the familiars brought me to 15, 16, and then exploring twice. So that's correct. So I do spend the other 2 movement to explore this tile here. Let's give me the fame right away. Die comes up green again. And there's another keep facing me. So this is defended by Thugs. We have a Mage Tower of Unknown Defenders, a Mountain Range, and a Dungeon. So I do think we should actually move here and try to explore this at this day and see if there's the first dragon already. But we do have 4 cards left, and we have not used the source die yet, so the plan was to use 5 movement to continue. I just noticed that I did not draw another card, because the whole point of going to the hill was not only to get the blue crystal, but also to have the hand limit increased by 1 due to mountain lore by ending my movement in hillside. So I did draw up to 5 cards, but I should have drawn up to 6. So we should fix it at that point. So we'll also have Will Focus available. That's interesting. But does that change anything? Now there's only 2 cards left in the deck, and I do have 3 turns, including this one. And we should make the most out of it. We should definitely explore at least 1 core tile, probably just 1, but to get to the elite units. And it might be good to either take the tower or a keep. The tower would give us access to the illusionists finally. But seeing that I picked up Into the Heat, I think shock troops or Utem guardsmen should actually be better, so taking a keep is probably a good idea. To plan the last 3 turns, we should really know what the remaining 2 cards are. And I do think there should be a stamina left. That's one of the 2 cards, as well as a determination, it seems. So stamina and determination are 2 blue cards. Since we did have 1 more card and have not used the source die, ending the turn does not do any good. We would get a crystal, of course, but that's pretty much it. So the question is, do we take either keep? Do we explore first? The movement we will have is just the stamina and improvisation if we use it for movement, and maybe will focus to give us even more points. For example, going via this plains to explore here, reveal the defenders, and then take this keep would take us 9 movement points. With will focus and improvisation, that would be 8, tossing another card. So you would need 1 other card sideways to actually make that happen. And the problem is that the guardsmen are really hard to kill. We just have 1 point of damage, so we need 6. The thugs give us 3. Improvisation, of course, would give us 3, but then we are not getting that much movement. We can, of course, use the will focus with the upcoming stamina for a movement of 7. That would also bring us to the core tile. And use the improvisation now to take the keep, because it's just 3 movement. Unfortunately, it will plunge us into -2 reputation unless we are taking this keep. Actually, if we take this keep, we don't need that much movement to explore the core tile. It's just 2 + 2, so just the stamina without the will focus. That's good. If we go here, we will get a reputation that cancels the loss of reputation. But what unit do we actually hire? We can get the guardsmen or the shock troops. Seeing that we have Into the Heat, I think shock troops might actually be good, because it can give us a range attack 4 just from the shock troops, and they will increase the attack of other units or block by 1 in addition. And the shock troops have some really nice abilities like reducing the armor and 1 attack, or reducing the attack by 3, which makes it much easier to block if it's like a swift ice attack or something like this. So they're quite versatile. Whereas the guardsmen do have a solid block, but it doesn't help too much against a cold swift attack, for example, because it's still inefficient. And the attack would almost be the same, but the shock troops give us the option to actually kill something at range if we have Into the Heat and a snowstorm, for example. But at 6 influence, the guardsmen are just 5, and if we take this keep, we will be at -2, so that would be 8 and 7 respectively. So if we plan on hiring, we should really not use the thugs now to at least get this influence, and we should also not use the threaten or toss it. We do have enough red, it seems, to come up with a combined reputation of 9, but we will plunge even deeper into negative reputation. At that point, it might even be worthwhile picking this up, but we won't get another skill for some time. And we can't get 5 fame to level to get our 3rd slot to not have to replace a unit. At least not with these tokens here. Actually, if we now move into this, we will provoke the hags after all. And we don't have that much firepower to also kill them, but that would make us level. All this is actually an argument to kill those, because they're actually easier to kill. But if we are not blocking them, of course, we will take an extra wound. But it will mean the reputation stays at -1. We don't have to deal with those. If we are not falling Into the Heat strategy, we could just take the tower. Get Charm, for example, and then hire the Illusionist with this, so we can actually spend the thugs. We'll focus Rage, we'll kill the Guardsman. We'll focus Threaten. Will give us 8, -2 of our taking this is exactly 6, so we can again use them. But we can't move there because we can't handle 2 tokens. The problem also is that this keep is in Wasteland, so that's 4 movement, so an improvisation without powering doesn't even get us there. And from there, again, we will have a harder time exploring. Maybe we should just move on and not be too concerned about hiring. If we use the thugs for hiring, especially if we also use Threaten, it's probably the last time we hire then, because we are plunging so deep in reputation, especially if we assault a tower, for example, we're already at -5. Yeah, I think if we go here, we can't explore later, and if we use the thugs to take the keep, we won't have the influence anyway. To go here, we would need 5 movement to circumvent the hags. Then the stamina could explore, but again, we would need to kill them without the thugs to have a chance to hire anything. I think both keeps are somewhat of a dead end for different reasons. So I think I should target 6 movement to go to the plains, see the defenders, and either take the tower, that's exactly 6 movement, or divert to the other plains and then reveal the tile and then see what I can do with the last 2 turns. If I take the tower, I can get Charm. And I do have a crystal if the source doesn't reroll, which means that I can get 4 influence and a discount of 3, so even with a -2 I'm at 5. So any other card will do to hire the shock troops, for example, and with any luck the tower will make me level. If not, I can maybe scout first, get 2 fame by this or 1, depending on if it's a city or not, and then with the 3rd turn hire. But I do think the way should be forward, and if I can't hire in a tower, the Threaten is really not good to keep around, so I do think I will toss this for improvisation. I can power it for 5, but I'm missing another movement point. That's the sad thing about this. I don't think I will toss the Will Focus, and using this will just give me too much movement and it will take a green mana instead of a red. So if nothing else, I will get the green crystal later. The Rage I might need to take the tower, which pretty much leaves the mana draw, which could be used to power the Rage. If I play it sideways now, I can't even power the Rage. I have to keep that in mind. But I can actually power it with the Will Focus. And it's a lot of attack, especially with the thugs. But I would take some damage, of course. But it's the point to see the defenders first. So we don't need to toss this right now. We can produce the 5 movement and then see what we want to do. We could even divert here and not spend another movement point, just draw up. And I do think I like this idea, so let's move on and do this. So we are using the red source type improvisation, tossing the Threaten to produce 5 movement. Goldyx leaves the mine for 2 movement, so we have 3 movement points left, and we see the defenders of the tower. The defenders are ice mages. I could kill them with the thugs, giving me 3 attack, rage 2 without powering it, and freezing power with the physical part, of course. That's exactly 6, but I would need to take 2 wounds. I can't kill them with the thugs if they are wounded first, but I would need reputation anyway. I can't block 5 attack. That's exactly why shock troops are so good. If you reduce the attack by 3, for example, it's only 2 ice, and then suddenly a block of 4 will just take care of that. I could wound the herbalist and me at least. then I would have 1 wound in hand, and that sounds quite manageable. They do give me 5 fame, so that's lucky, so I'm actually leveling, getting another slot, so I don't have to replace a unit yet. Although the Herbalist might be something I want to replace then at the beginning of the next night. Actually, I can't hire the shock troops, of course, in a tower. I'm not sure if I planned for this. So this route really only brings me to the illusionists, which is a bit sad, but then again, maybe we can hire some other good attack unit to replace the herbalists, and the illusionists can actually help with that. So that's also interesting. I think with the pure city units out of the elite units, there might be a lot of units left that I can actually hire in the mage tower. So with any luck, I can get something like fire golems or something like this. So I do think taking the tower and leveling is probably a good idea, which would mean that I need the last movement point, and it's probably the mana draw. But with the reputation loss of the assault, I'm running out of cards quickly because the charm, even though it's 4 influence, will only be worth 2. The discount of 3 will reduce this to 4, but I'm missing 2 influence, which means that I really have to toss 2 cards, and I'm only seeing 2 more, one of which is movement that I need to explore a core tile. So I have to pretty much toss the determination for influence and the will focus, because this will no longer be available. At that point, I'm actually thinking about if I should use the thugs for this attack or if I should just use the will focus with the rage. It will cost me another reputation, but then my influence problems are gone. But I will have a reputation problem, of course. Yeah, but let's try that out. So with another movement point, we are at 6 minus 2 for the plains as 4, which is enough for the wasteland to enter the mage tower, which is an assault. So we are going down to minus 2. The 5 ice attack will wound the herbalists, which is level 1 unit. So I can leave it there instead of taking it myself just to carry it. And the 3 remaining damage will give me 1 wound. And to come up with the 6 attack, I'm just using the will focus then. So not using the thugs, to come up with a red token. So rage will be attack 4. Actually, that's 1 damage shy of killing them. Yeah, so that's unfortunate, but I do think I have to make it work without the thugs. Otherwise, I can't really hire the illusionist, and I should really hire in the tower once I have my 3rd command slot. I won't take Tremor, I won't take Space Bending, I think. With Into the Heat, it's just far too tempting to take Charm and maybe use it at the beginning of the night to hire something else. Which does mean I have to come up with 6 attack, so I probably have to use it like this, which is complete overkill. So that's 7, 8 attack, and I do have to use the crystal, unfortunately. But I do really want to kill this in level, so I don't actually need this, and the mages are killed. Which brings my fame up to 24 and 25 with the scenario rules. These 2 crystals are taken care of. This has to be re-rolled. And I've played everything except for, well, my wound. I do level, so I get my 3rd slot. We re-roll the die. Comes up golden for a change. We mark the tower with our shield. And we do get the combat reward first, which is a spell. At that point, I do want to continue with the plan as laid out, so taking charm. Replacement spell is expose. Then technically it's the level up, and we draw, which is the charm, the determination, and the stamina is already inferred from the discard pile. The dummy then plays his 5th turn, exhausting his deck, so we cannot play our 5th turn, and we will have 1 more turn after that. I think the only question is in which order we do this, if we explore first or if we hire first. I don't think we want to leave the tower, so powering this doesn't actually do us any good. We can actually drop the determination for an influence, so the 4 influence and the 4 here is 9. Minus 2 is 7, which gives us the illusionists, so I can actually get a crystal. The alternative is to actually get a discount of 3, so they cost 4 only, so I can hire them with the thugs. And I will have the 4 influence available together with the 4 influence from the illusionists themselves. Well, this would be only 2 because of the reputation. 4 is 6. Discount brings this to 4, which means I have 2 influence left, and the influence and the illusions can give me 4 influence, which is 6. And I could pick up another spell, but I think we should actually go for the crystals, so we are not stuffed for mana. The illusions can also just give us a white crystal. Yeah, I do think I will pick up the illusionist first, and then just power the stamina just to see what happens. Maybe there's a reason to actually go on. But I have to decide if I want to get the crystal first, and I do think I want the crystal, which would not leave any other cards, and 2 movement points will most likely not allow me to move anywhere. So casting Charm with the gold die gives me influence 4, minus 2 is 2. Activating the thugs makes it 6, but I do lose a reputation at the end of turn. So I'm at minus 3 now. And the determination sideways makes it 7. So I can pick up the illusionists, since I'm in a mage tower. And I can get a crystal of any color. And I do feel like I have enough blue, even though of course I have the snowstorm. I do need red for Into the Heat. I do have a white still, and I can get another white. So I think the question is green or red. Green is will focus, of course, but red is into the heat, improvisation, stuff like this, rage. I will get this, hopefully, before the assaults. So I do think I will take a red crystal. And I don't think I want to use them now, so this ends my turn, my 5th. This is rerolled. Comes up white. Dummy announces end of round, and I can play my 6th and final turn of the first day. And I do want to play my last card, of course, and why not power it? So it's 4 movement points. I'm exploring this tile, and this is actually the top pile of the stack, because I laid them out from left to the right. The rose comes up black, so it's rotate 180 degrees. And it's not the city, it's the Draconum tile in the center mountain, but in this scenario Draconums are replaced with green enemies, so it's a catapult instead. We have a blue mine, the second one, which is hillside if I use mountain lore. There's a keep, I don't know the defenders in the blue altar, which would be the best one, seeing that I have 2 blue and a blue mine, but I don't think I want to pick up 7 fame at the edge of the map. So these are the 2 cities we are looking for, and we'll actually get a fame for this exploration, let's not forget that. And we could of course move away from the mage tower, but I don't think I want to do that. And I can't get another point to actually reach the mine. I do think I want to stay on the tower to maybe replace the herbalist with some unit that actually benefits from Into the Heat. Maybe even using the illusionist, let's see. Maybe I can, well, I can definitely pick up charm if I use preparation. But I can't do anything more with this. So this would be re-rolled. And this is the end of day 1. And I feel like this is going much better than last game. This is of course not a useful combat spell, unless I provoke some other enemies to actually fight for me with Possess. But I do have the Snowstorm or Blizzard, and with any luck the dragon is not ice resistant, so I can maybe even snipe one of them. And I do have Into the Heat with 3 units, so I'm not stuck at 1 unit. And I do even have an artifact which gives me mana, so mana hopefully is not an issue. I have 4 crystals, so it's looking much better. I'm quite in position to reveal these tiles quickly. This is 4 more fame, I know that already, so another 5 film will level me again, give me another skill and another advanced action. But let's do the bookkeeping. So Space Vending will give the dummy a blue crystal, and he will pick up a red card, which is not optimal, but then again, it's not a big deal, I think. Tremor is nothing I want to pick up in this kind of scenario. It's armor -3, so physical resistant, it would be 6 damage, but I don't think it's good enough. And there's still Expose, which could be interesting, but again, I don't know the dragons and I have to leave the tower before knowing what the dragons are. So we remove this with control over the offers. Steady Tempo is a blue movement card, and we have more blue mana than green, but I think picking up a movement card that can also heal might be better, and I do have green mana from motivation, so I do think it will toss the Steady Tempo as well. As the last times, we will not replace the monastery card because I burned it down. We do ready our skills and our units. Tactics are removed. Advanced actions refresh to pathfinding, very nice if getting from one city to the other is actually a problem. But Stout Resolve is awesome as well, because it can be firepower to just brute force my way to victory. Spellbuffers showing Mist Form and Chill, so 2 blue spells, not sure they are that important. The remaining silver units are Foresters and Magic Familiars that I can actually hire at the Mage Tower. And they can, if improved, provide an attack of 5 already. So with Into the Heat up to 8. But let's see what the elite units are. Heroes, which I cannot hire at the Mage Tower, unfortunately. And Amotep Gunners, which I also cannot hire at the Mage Tower. So that's a bit unfortunate. This also refreshes to red, blue, white and black. Black might not be the worst thing, so I can actually cast a Blizzard without using mana draw. So we are shuffling the dummy deck. That should be enough. And finally our deck. We do have 1 wound in hand. But if we get any influence whatsoever, we might pick up Charm. So Charm and Threaten or Promise will be enough to hide the Familiars. And with a red crystal or mana token, we will then have a good attack unit as well. And with Into the Heat, they could even be used for block 7 if need be. So this should also be enough. Let's see what our starting hand is. This will be quite important. And we do have a hand limit of 6 now after leveling. So movement right away. The wound right away. Into the Heat right away. That's bad. Improvisation could also be influence. Charm, that's really good. And a mana draw. As for the tactics, I don't think forgoing 1 turn to build up a hand is a good idea. Although we do have to get through this deck. Preparation might be interesting. Swapping out cards might also be interesting. But I do think we should just hire and go. So we should be able to hold on to Into the Heat. This is good for movement. This is good for hiring or movement. And this would also allow us to keep the crystal while still, for example, improving the attack of the Familiars. So I'm not sure this is good. Mana Surge could repair the source, but we do have the Gem Pouch and some crystals. which leaves pretty much Long Night, because I would rather take Long Night than From the Dusk. So it's either Long Night or Preparation. So my preferred way would be to kill one of the dragons by not having it attack, and then have the thugs with Into the Heat and the familiars just kill the dragon, and then kill the other with the blizzard. But how do I hire the familiars? I would need 6 + 3 influence, and this could discount them by 3 and produce 4, so we are missing 2. So taking Promise or Threaten will solve this, but I will most likely lose a turn. The other option would be to go for Long Night, having 1 more turn and then trying to burn through my cards, which could mean using Improvisation to hire, but I would need to discard 1 other card. And I really don't want to discard the March, Into the Heat, or the Mana Draw, which does mean Preparation sounds more and more interesting. Taking Midnight Meditation to just toss out the Wound and get Into the Heat later is just, it's gambling, and mana is, I don't think, it's not the issue. What I do fear a bit is that we will have a lot of rampaging enemies that are blocking our way, which cost time and resources, which we do not have if we want to take 2 Draconums in the same night. Which would mean that a Long Night is preferable to have more time and 3 cards more overall, so we can use several things maybe more than once. But it would bar us from hiring the familiars with the opening hand. Dropping the March is probably not a good idea. I would then play the Charm, the Improvisation with the March and the Mana Draw. So just having 2 cards left. Actually with the Long Night is probably okay. Chances are with 3 cards out of the deck it will be a movement card, and it will be a good fast first turn. The Mana Draw to preserve a crystal to improve the attack of the familiars with a red source die. But I will also not play the Improvisation for movement then. But once I level, there will be a lot of movement cards in the offer, so Pathfinding is a movement card, Refreshing Walk is a movement card, and even Stout Resolve can be used as movement, of course. If I power this, just to point it out, it's 5 influence plus 4 is already 9, so we can actually get a crystal. I just realized I did not use the Illusionist last time, so I did not get me the white crystal, which is a huge oversight. And I think, should I give that to me now? Of course there was information revealed, but I do think it's clear that this was just... I mean, there's no decision to make. It's just, I just forgot. Yeah, I'm giving me this crystal. This is really not a game where you can just give away stuff. Yeah, I feel like I should take Long Night and just try to burn through my deck. Let's see what the dummy picks then, but most likely he's going after me, of course. And the dummy picks Preparation. Okay, so the order reverses. Goldyx goes before Krang, and we are on our first turn. And I do want to play the Mana Draw, so I can use 2 Source Dice. Because I do want to power the Improvisation. I definitely want to hold on to Into the Heat. The Wound I cannot play for anything. Which does mean I need red and white. That's influence 9, minus 3 is 6. Which allows me to pick up the Familiars and replace the Herbalists. And since I did not need the discount, I can get a crystal for free. So I can pretty much just pick any crystal I want for the Familiars. But I could also take a green, for example, and then use a white one for the Familiars. It's tempting to go for attack as planned, because with Into the Heat, it's really a lot of attack. But then again, going for a white crystal, for example, would give me the option to produce move 5, which also is quite interesting. But I should probably try to go for some combat strategy. Block 7 is also interesting. Let's just go with red and see where this takes us. It's just +2, that's the sad part. But if we encounter any physical resistant dragon, worst case would be also ice resistant. I think we can, or we need all the attack we can get. We should definitely improve either attack or block, I think, even though movement is interesting. But the white crystal we can use for the illusionists and for swiftness, of course. Yeah, let's just produce a red crystal and give that to the familiars. So that's my first turn. Then we re-roll these, and they both come up black. That's kind of the worst case scenario because we just played Mana Draw. But this is something that can happen in solo, unfortunately. But we do draw 4 replacement cards. There's the Snowstorm right away that might be good to make short work of the first dragon. A Threaten, now that's a bit late. Stamina is really good, especially since we have a blue source die and we do need to move now. And a Rage. In the dummy's first turn he plays blue, red and blue, which is 1 more card, which is white. In our second turn we do need to get going. Learning another spell I don't think is a good idea, so let's just move. Using the blue die to produce movement 4, going to the plains and then revealing our first city. Which is the green one, of course with 2 defenders. Let's see what the orientation is. It's green, so rotate it twice. So from this orientation once and twice. We are facing war beasts. The Draconum we don't know yet. Another orc that we are not interested in, a village and a glade. And we do get 2 fame. 1 for the tile, 1 for finding a destroyed city. And we do need to get past these war beasts. And that's the problem, that it will cost us resources. So we either take wounds, so 2 in this case, which would mean making a resting turn. That might be good because it's just costing us a turn but not resources. Or we would have to use the illusionist to not make them attack, for example. But how do we even kill them? We do have 1 damage here, so rage will kill them, but we do not have the red mana. Unless we are using the crystal, but we might not be able to power into the heat. But it's just 1 point difference. Well, 2 then if we use 2 units. And I do feel we need to play cards, so we can't just wait for the reroll, for example. Using the thugs to block will get rid of then 5 or 6 attack, which would be quite sad. I don't want to pop motivation without anything to use the mana for. But the problem is if we take 2 wounds to hand and hold on to into the heat, that's 4 cards already. And we do want to hold on to the snowstorm, it's 5 cards. We of course would toss to threaten because it's irrelevant, but then we would draw 1 card, and for a resting turn we would have to discard that no matter what it is. And that doesn't sound too good either. We can try and play it slow to discard a threaten, and since we played the stamina we will draw 2 more cards. Maybe this allows us to block the attack. It's just an attack of 3, but it really depends on the cards I draw, of course. I do not want to just waste time. That is a block point, so another rage would already block it. The motivation would help, but I do not like to squander the green mana, especially with a dead source. That source really escalated quickly. I also can't just kill them with Snowstorm, because it's ice attack, which feels bad anyway, because if the blizzard can just kill the dragon, I would feel so bad afterward. But it's our second turn already, so if we rest in the third, the night is already half over, and we don't know which card we lose. But we can't even move on past this, because we will provoke them anyway. Yeah, I feel like I have to use the illusionists. It feels bad, but I can't deal with these wounds currently. And we are not guaranteed to get back the good cards if we use them now with Long Night. It's just 3 cards. And we do have to get through the deck first. So I do think we should hold on to this, play this, and not get any wounds. So let's just do that. It's extremely costly, but let's not make them attack with the illusionists and then kill them with rage. Unfortunately, I have to power it even though I have a damage here and a damage here. But it's just 4. They need 5, so I'm 1 off again. I would have to use one of these cards sideways, and I do not want to do that. I don't want to use another unit. So that's that. They are not attacking, and I'm killing them with 5 damage. Would even be 6, but again, doesn't matter. So it's 3 fame and a reputation. Crystals are gone, of course. We reroll the die. It also comes down black, so that's so unlucky. But you have to live with this. I just used the mana draw in the beginning, so there's no chance to fix this now. So we have to live without the source. That's so bad. We do draw 3 cards. There's a tranquility that's actually quite good, so we can get rid of the wound. There's a swiftness, at least a little bit of movement, and a stamina. That's good. That was our second turn. Now the dummy plays his second turn. Red, red, and white. This is awesome. So we might have a long night after all, and we can play our third turn. And I do need to get rid of this wound. I don't have any mana to speak of anyway. I would get green here, but let's just heal that. Then I feel like I have to power stamina for movement 4. But I do have to play this as well to even reach the dragon. And then I will have 1 point missing to also reveal this tile. But I really want to hold on to this. Actually, when seeing the dragon, well, I can't toss it because there's 2 dragons I have to kill. It's just bad that this is wasteland. I could move here and reveal this tile instead of going to the dragon. I think that's actually preferable because I can pick up pathfinding on leveling, which might make it much easier to then get to the other city. But I won't have green mana. Well, I will have if I can hold on to this for long enough. But the source situation might actually kill me. Yeah, but I do think I want to go here and actually reveal. This is exactly 6 movement, so I'm not wasting a point. And again, maybe picking up pathfinding will then solve the issue of how to get there. So let's do that. It's actually desert, that's much better. So none of this costs 5 movement, that's good. At least not at night. Comes up white, so it's rotated once, which does rotate away the enemies, that's so good. And there is a red mine that might be extremely useful. So the Draconums are again replaced by green enemies. We do have the Draconum here. We don't know what the altar is, but it doesn't matter because we do not want to move from there to not provoke the enemies. So hopefully we can access the mine next turn. It would be so good. But that's it for this turn. We have played 4 cards, so we healed the wound with Tranquility and used the 2 movement cards to get into position. We use the crystal and we draw 4 cards. At least we are going through our deck in a good pace to actually utilize Long Night. Let's see what we get here. A promise, a rage, a determination, and another swiftness. So at least, again, a little bit of movement. We should have the mountain lore left for movement. Both staminas we've already seen, and there's a march left. So maybe we can make one assault. Well, actually, we would hold on to this, but there's a march left, there's a mountain lore left. Let's see. So that was our third turn. Dummy places third. Red, green, and green. One more card is another green. Okay, so at least he's not picking up the pace. That's good. Now we can't kill a dragon at range with just swiftness. If the blizzard doesn't kill it, we are screwed anyway, where we do have this. So we add 9 anyway. So I don't think we can hold on to this, which means that I will play this swiftness with the promise for movement 3 to actually get to the mine and see the first dragon. And then we can think about if we actually want to attack with these sideways, because we then have open information anyway. But let's move here first. That's hillside, so 3 movement, and see what a dragon is. And it's an ice dragon, so that's not good. It's probably the worst that could happen, having a snowstorm in hand. So the only element he's not resistant to is fire, which we do not have. At least we can play into the heat before getting paralyzed. But now it's really bad that we did not hold on to the illusionists. But that's what I'm always saying. Knowledge is key in Mage Knight. If you knew what you are up against, you can plan for this. But if you're running into complete darkness, you have to make decisions without actually knowing what you are up against. And it's actually something I do not like. Usually I do like that most of Mage Knight is open information and you can do plan, you can strategize. But in this scenario, even though in the other scenarios you are facing like cities of 5 tokens, but it's a good mix. You know that not everything will be ice resistant. But it could actually mean that we are not attacking this first, so we maybe have to kill the other dragon first, unless we are letting the dragon shred our units. But we do need into the heat with the units to actually get to these 14 attack. That would be 8, and if we can't power this, it would be 12. If we power it, it would actually be already 14. But we do have a rage, for example, so we would have enough, but not if we are getting paralyzed. And an attack of 6, which is ice. This is why the shock troops would have been so good. Reducing the attack by 3, for example, makes it much more likely to be able to block it. This is just 5 block, we would need 12, so it's out of the question. And again, we have the wrong cards at the wrong time. So I do think we have to stay here, get the red crystal, and redraw 2 cards and see what we get. We can't really justify tossing these, or can we? The thing is, if I get the red crystal now, I can actually power this, which would mean the familiars have an attack of 8, the thugs of 6, which is 14. So the units can kill it, and I would just lose the rest of my cards. I would lose Snowstorm, that's the biggest issue here, and all my units would be used, so I would have to kill the other dragon with whatever comes up actually. But I do even have a hard time coming up with the movement to even attack the green Draconum, so in the green city I mean. That's 7 movement due to the swamp, so I'd rather level now and pick up pathfinding. Without powering it, of course, it won't do much good, but if we can hold on to the motivation, I think we can actually power this, and then it will only cost us 6 movement to get to the city, and this will already provide 4. I do think we have to do it like this, so we just stay here, and at that point I think I do have to conserve my deck a bit, so I'm not discarding anything else. I'm picking up the red crystal from the mine, drawing 2 cards. It is a march and a mountain lore. And at that point I think I'd rather attack the other dragon first after all. But let's see what the dummy does first. So this was our 4th turn. Dummy plays blue, green, and red, unfortunately. That's 2 more cards, but it doesn't matter. So he has 3 more in the deck, so it's actually irrelevant. Here are the white ones, which does mean we can play our 5th turn. He will exhaust the stack. Our 6th, he will announce the end of round, and then our 7th. So we have 3 turns left. And I do actually think I will pop this now to produce move 7, which brings me to the green city, and try to kill this with the blizzard. And then I can pick up pathfinding to try getting back to this dragon and with into the heat kill it. I think that's a better choice, because if I go in now to this dragon, I cannot keep any cards. So I will lose all this, especially the snowstorm, and I will be at the mercy of the long night to see what happens. Actually, I might want to play these 2 sideways to get to 7, so I can hold on to this to power pathfinding to actually reach the other dragon. But if I can't kill it then with a blizzard, I'm actually screwed. So I can take this from the source, this from there. So this will be siege, ice attack 9. Let's see what the possible tokens are. Yeah, the problem is that most dragons I will just kill. Lava dragon, dragon summoner, swamp dragon, fire dragon, but not the other ice dragon, not the 2 high dragons, and not the storm dragon, because they are all ice resistant, so it won't work with blizzard. And since I can't really block their attacks, the storm dragon will be really bad because it's ice attack 4 swift, and without blocking it I have to come up with 14 attack, so it's pretty much the same as with the ice dragon. And I can only use Into the Heat once, and then I'm pretty much screwed. So yeah, I think if I'm pulling a Storm Dragon, I'm done for. If it's the other Ice Dragon, I'm also done for. And the High Dragon with a 6 brutal cold fire attack, well, I could ignore that. But the Determination doesn't do me any good, because all these dragons have elemental attacks, so it's inefficient anyway. The Rage might be necessary, but I think on its own it doesn't do much as well. So I do think I have to take the chance. From the remaining 13 dragon tokens, 5 are bad. So it's 8 good, 5 bad. So it's the chances in my favor, but not much. I do have 3 cards in the deck, and Long Night will add 3. I can use this, of course, if need be. I think tossing the Rage is the biggest issue here. There will be a Crystal Joy in there. Let's see what the cards actually are. The Gem Pouch, the Crystal Joy. The Gem Pouch actually could come in clutch to get me another green. Well, there's a Will Focus in there, it seems. Gem Pouch, Crystal Joy, Will Focus. Will Focus is actually a big deal, but I feel like if I use this to power this, I cannot use this for the Will Focus. Will Focus is a big deal because it's 7 attack, then for Rage that's already 9. So I'm getting closer to actually killing one of these dragons that have ice resistance or physical resistance. Yeah, the High Dragon is pretty much a problem because of its brutal cold fire attack 6, but it's not physical resistant. So with Will Focus and a Rage I could actually kill it, but I would have to assign the wounds somewhere else. The Storm Dragon is not physical resistant, but it doesn't matter because it has 14 armor just by being elusive, and I have no chance to block it. Alright, so do we move there by playing these sideways, or do we power this? And I do feel we have to take the chance and play this sideways. Actually, we don't need to decide this. Well, we don't need to decide. Well, we do have to decide this if we want to power this, but not if we want to play them sideways. We could just linger at the village, because we do have 3 turns. Plunder, for example. So this will bring us to the swamp without mana, and we should probably do that and just look at a dragon. And then we can attack with these 2. I think that's the best idea, actually, because if the snowstorm is irrelevant, we could even use these for attacking. And then with this and a Will Focus, maybe even kill the dragon. So yeah, I'm liking this. So this is 5 movement. This is irrelevant because we are not ending in hills. At least not yet. So we are moving to the swamp with 5 movement and see what this dragon is. And of course, it's a high dragon. The Blizzard, of course, is still for attack, even though it's inefficient. Which does mean 5 range attack would kill it. But we do have the Bow Swiftness in the discard pile already. And we don't have any units that produce range attack, because we do not have the Shock Troops. That would be at least 3 or 4. One we have here. That would actually be it. So this physical one with this is actually 5, so we are lacking 4 range attack to just kill him. It's so bad that we do not have the Illusionists, because neither of them are actually fortified, so we could just ignore the attack. I feel like I have to just take the wounds and make a resting turn. With motivation we would get Crystal Joy, Gem Pouch or Will Focus. The Will Focus will be our ticket to kill it. We do need to move in and we do not have any movement cards left, so Will Focus will bring us to 7, 8, and then for example a Crystal Joy. But maybe you should just cast this after all. It's another wound, but it doesn't matter in this great scheme of things if we can hold on to one card to make the resting turn. Since this would be 8 damage and that's 9, it would reroll the source, and we could then toss the Determination with all the wounds, and then draw the remaining cards, power this, and with the Pathfinding make the final assault. I think this has to be the play, but I do actually need 2 cards to move in, I'm forgetting about this. But that's the point where I start to dislike this scenario, because it's really relevant what dragons you fight. I've never encountered this, that it was that relevant what tokens you actually fight. If you fight cities, if you fight Volca, if you fight avatars, there are so many tokens that it does level out. But if it's just one token with brutal attacks and resistances, and this game I just picked up the Snowstorm after having exposed last time, and I'm finding 2 dragons that are ice resistant, and it renders this almost useless. Other dragons it will just kill. That's too much luck for my taste for a game like Mage Knight. Yeah, so I do think I really dislike this, to be honest. There's just too much luck going on. In this 2-round format, you are much more luck based anyway on how the tiles fall, because you can't have like a good and a bad round and a good and a bad round. If you're a little bit unlucky, and with 2 rounds it's just over. And I do think you need these 4 or 6 rounds for a skilled player to definitely have a chance to make it, because it's just far too relevant here in this format. You always have this luck-based component that you draw a dungeon enemy, for example, when entering a dungeon or a tomb, or a defender for a monastery when you burn it down, or spawning ground, stuff like this. But it never felt so bad like it did in the last game and in this one. I just don't like having the game decided in the end, and you will, in a 2-round game, encounter the dragons only in the end, unless you're really diving deep, and I tried this last time and it failed spectacularly. So I'm not a fan of this. Sure, I could have tried to hold on to the illusionists to make them not attack, but even the point that I do have the illusionists and not another unit, like the shock troops, came down to the fact that these keeps are in a worse position than a mage tower. This would provoke another enemy for which you just don't have time in this format, and this is so out of position that I'm lacking the movement to even get to the core tiles in the first day. And I don't think I played this badly in this game. But enough complaining, let's try if we can still win it nevertheless. Currently, I'm just lacking 1 card. I probably do have to pop this and hope I get a green crystal from the gem pouch. Although Crystal Joy can also convert me this into green, so I can actually power the pathfinding. And I do need the red, unfortunately, to have enough attack to kill this after getting paralyzed. But this plan here actually means I need 2 crystals, and I would have neither the red nor the blue. So this is why I do have to pop this now and just hope for the best. So let's do this. Getting a green token and 2 cards, which is the Crystal Joy and the Will Focus. So we have just the gem pouch left. And the gem pouch we can actually break for any mana color that we want. So that's good. So the idea is to power this. And this is the only card I can actually power that then gives me attack. So that's 7. That's 8. And I do need this card. And I need a 9th point of damage and 2 to move in. So actually these all need to be played sideways. 2 for moving to dragon. And 1, 4, and 3, that's 8, it's 9. And it's all physical, so we'd kill this. 6 brutal is 12 damage, which is 4 wounds. The illusionists are not helping, because they're just physical resistance, so they would soak up 2 damage and I can't wound them. So 10 would still be 4 wounds, so I'm taking these 4 wounds, which does actually mean that I will draw only 1 card, which is the card I'm taking, which would be Pathfinding, and then I can't rest because I would have to toss a card, which is either Pathfinding or Into the Heat, and I need both. That's so stupid. So I do have to do it differently somehow. I need to hold on to 1 other card, but I need 2 to move. Yeah, I do think I have to play this Blizzard after all. That would be blue and black. Get another wound, so it's still below my hand limit. So 5 is less than 6, but it would be 4 damage, so I need only with this, it's 5 damage, so I need only 4, which would be this, for example. Yeah, I do think I don't need the crystal actually, so maybe I'm holding on to this as well and just tossing this, because I do have the gem pouch. Or did I miscalculate? No, it's the gem pouch, okay. So I do need green and red to execute the plan, and I can just break the pouch to get whatever I like. So I'm not using the green after all. That would be a block of 8, but the wound's actually not a pro. It will cost me a turn, but if I block this toward end, it's not reducing the armor or anything. It's just preventing the wounds, and it's just not worth it. So we are moving in with these 2 cards. We are taking a wound from Blizzard, taking a black Saucer and a blue crystal, and take a red crystal. So we get damage 8, and this is 9. So this is inefficient, this is why it's 4, this is physical, which kills the dragon. But it will deal us 4 wounds, of course, because it's 12 damage with 3 armor. But it's 9 fame, brings us to 40, 41, which does mean we level. We do hold on to 1 card that we have to drop to rest to not lose the pathfinding. But we definitely need the pathfinding to move to the other dragon. The terrain is just far too bad otherwise. This is all lost. We do reroll this. Comes up red for a change, so we do have a mana after all. And we do have a skill choice, and we would have revealed another crank skill, which is a mana producing skill. It would have been good, but we can't take that now because we do need pathfinding, unless we are getting flight. So maybe we should not get ahead of ourselves. Let's see what the skill choice is first. And it's actually potion making, which does heal, but it's somewhat pointless. And it's universal power that actually allows us to play a card sideways for 3. If it matches the color of the card, it's actually giving us 4. Let's see, we would need a movement cost of 5, 8, 10 to attack. And we don't know what we get from Long Night. And this is just a gem pouch. Yeah, so there's no way we can get around that. So we do need pathfinding. I think we can and will win with this. That's nice, unless I'm miscalculating. Which does mean we can either heal 2 or use universal power, but I don't think we need that. We do need 6 movement. Powering pathfinding gives us 4, and we will have enough cards to play sideways if they are not movement. This will make it sure, and healing 2 wounds is just about score, so I think I'd take universal power. Krang adds curse. Offer refreshes with agility, and this is our 5th turn. We of course do not draw anything. The dummy in his 5th turn will exhaust his deck, and we are in our 6th turn now, where we do rest, which means we are discarding all this together with Will Focus to hold on to Into the Heat. And that's the turn. So we do draw up to 6 cards, which is these 2, which is Pathfinding and the Gem Pouch. And we flip the Long Night. Let's mark that with a gold token to get 3 cards from our discard pile, which can of course all be wounds. That will actually screw us quite good. So if we draw 3 wounds, we do lose, I think, because we then can't produce enough movement to actually get to the dragon. But how unlucky do I can get? So I will draw all 3 cards because I do have a hand limit of 6. Let's actually mark that space because we did recover 1 shard of the Lost Relic. So that should be enough. Let's take 3 cards from the deck and let's see how unlucky we get. There's a wound. There's a stamina. Okay, that solves it, I think. Another wound. Okay, so I almost screwed it up. But this brings us to our 7th turn. And I'm discarding these because I can't heal them anyway. Which means we are breaking this because we can't risk it to just roll. And we gain a mana token of each basic color and a black one. So let's mark this like this. We then use Pathfinding and Stamina. And there's actually no reason not to power this as well. Which gives us 8 movement and the cost of all terrain is set to 2. Which means we can move 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces just for fun to see what the altar is. Gives us an artifact, nice, and we will attack the dragon in our last turn. At the beginning of combat, we cast Into the Heat with the red, and this is already played, so we have no cards in hand. So 6 ice attack will give us 2 more wounds, which I put right to the discard pile, and we are paralyzed. But at that point, it doesn't matter. We then activate the familiars for 3 plus 2 plus 3. That's 8, and the thugs, which makes us lose a reputation for 3 plus 3. That's 6. 8 and 6 is 14, inefficient is 7, which does kill the damn dragon. We would even have an attack here, but it doesn't matter at that point. So all this is lost. This is destroyed, and the dragon is killed. 8 more fame brings it to 49, 1 bonus fame due to the scenario. And we do mark the destroyed city with our shield because we have recovered the 2nd Lost Relic. And we do win the scenario. That was kind of epic, but as I already said, I'm not sure I like it too much. It's only that epic because I had to bend over backwards to make this work with the tokens I've drawn. I really think this would be much more interesting if you already knew the dragons, for example. It would of course make it much easier, so we have to compensate for that, but it would be less luck dependent. Again, I'm repeating myself, but I do like Mage Knight for its deterministic gameplay and its huge amount of input randomness and a very low amount of output randomness. It's only the mana rerolling that's really up to luck, and if you've seen it in this game, if you roll black 3 times in a row and you already start with a black, you suddenly have no mana from the source whatsoever. And without mana draw, you can't even repair that in solo. And that's just a huge swing in this game. This is also why I have thought about some variants to fix this huge amount of output randomness that's in solo, I think, a real deal here in Mage Knight. And besides that, you really only have output randomness when it comes to do you get a spell or an artifact in the dungeon, and a spell is arguably worse, or token drawing, but then again you usually know what tokens you can get, and usually you can have a contingency plan, and if you have 14 tokens for example and 2 are bad or 4 are bad, it's really not that likely. But with the dragons, they have that many elements in their armor and in their attacks that it really makes a big difference. Again, yeah, taking Snowstorm in a scenario where you come up against 2 ice-resistant dragons, that's so bad. And you don't have the time to also pick up Expose, for example. Of course, I could have done that, but do you really want to pick that up without knowing the dragons, and then you are pitched against a Swamp Dragon and a Storm Dragon? Then suddenly it doesn't do anything for you. So you know that in a regular full conquest, the Expose will be good because it removes fortification or resistance of all enemies, so it's so flexible. It will be good for city assaults, that's just a given. Even if you can just snipe 1 or 2 tokens with this, it's already paying off. But if you can't use it at all, it's just a huge waste of time. And I do think this scenario, for this reason, is not really balanced as well as the regular solo game is. But nevertheless, we didn't make it. So our third Lost Relic, we actually won. If we did not screw up, we will see that in the review. Let's get rid of the dummy here. We do have a huge deck because we have picked up so many wounds. So we do have 3 action cards, 2 spells, and 7 wounds. So I do believe we get 5 per relic and 10 if we get both, so 20 points. Of course, there was no card in the dummy deck. End of a round was announced, so nothing there. And the spells actually get us 4 points. The advanced action 3. We do not have artifacts and we only have 1 crystal left. The units are level 5. We did conquer a mage tower and burn down a monastery. So these 2 here, that's 4 points. I don't think there's anything left. We went like this. Adventuring, well, there was nothing else we did do, actually, I think. Which brings us to the wounds, which are minus 14. So we are back to 72, and I think that's it. Not a great score, but I take the win, to be honest. It went better than last time, definitely, so I don't need to make a postmortem out of it. Although it probably looked like that I do not win this. But as I always say, I will only make a postmortem if I do not achieve anything worthwhile. So if I would have failed by 1 card, for example, to kill the second dragon but I was in place and it's just 1 attack that's missing, I will probably not make it a postmortem, just to keep up the suspense. I do think the choice of the Herbalist and the Thugs was actually good. Having these 2 units and not being required to hire, and having a unit like the Thugs to be activated twice was quite interesting. But I do feel like I was unlucky with the unit offer because they were only level 1 units. If you can get the Foresters with the Herbalists, even though they are also level 1, that makes it much more interesting because you have that much movement, reduction, block, you can wound them and so on. Or get some of the more interesting level 2 units like shop troops or guardsmen or even swordsmen with the Herbalist would also be better. I did pick up the Mountain Lore instead of the Song of Wind. And looking at this map, that might be a good decision. Again, the hacks can't be circumvented in this game without provoking them. So you can't just dive deep and there is not much planes going on. This would have been reduced by 2, but it's almost not relevant. So I do think Mountain Lore might actually be better in this case. It can also get you past this mountain range, give you hand limit increase. But I feel like you do need a movement skill. And picking up a spell with 18 influence on leveling for 9 or 7 if you have by chance the right crystal color doesn't sound like a good deal actually. Picking up the charm allowed us to hire the illusionists, and I do have to keep in mind that if I pick them up with Into the Heat, I do really have to get them to the dragons. But how do you actually defeat the war beasts if you don't have concentrated swiftness in hand? Well, I could have used the snowstorm, but then again, they are ice resistant. That's why I don't like these elemental spells too much. Fireball and snowstorm are good, but it depends on the tokens you face. And again, you don't know that. So this is why I usually like green and white spells more. I could have picked a tornado, and I did visit both cities at the night anyway, so you should probably not plan for getting to the first dragon in the first day anyway. And then tornado would just kill one of them. And if you then also have the illusionist, that would be awesome. But Into the Heat worked out quite nicely, and having a third unit with Into the Heat was actually not necessary because I had too much attack with 2 already. So I don't think it makes any difference to have a third one. So maybe preventing an attack is actually much better. If I could hold on to the Herbalist as well to ready them, that would be even better. Like Tornado, Herbalist, Illusionist, yeah. In the end, I do think it's still a nice puzzle. It's a shorter format. I do like it, but I do think I would like to tweak this. Maybe have the dragons be known, or at least have one of them be known. Maybe not which one it is, but then giving the known dragon some unknown dungeon enemy on its side or something like this. But some kind of information, because I do think Mage Knight shines the most when you already know earlier what you're up against, and then you can actually strategize about what to take. And if you're just forced to take something and then get into an arbitrary fight with arbitrary abilities, that's frustrating. I do like the leveling process, and this is why I do see some potential with the 6-round scenarios to shorten them to 4. So cutting it 2 rounds short, but leveling up to, let's say, level 4, for example. Because I do think any good player should be at least level 4 after the 2nd round. So I don't think that's giving you too much. So maybe a 6-round scenario and starting at level 4 and trying it in only 4 rounds might be fair game, but you also have to reduce the tiles then, of course. So it requires some tweaking. I'm not that fond of house ruling stuff and coming up with my own things. I usually trust the designers to get that right. Yeah, so all in all, quite interesting. I hope you enjoyed this game. Let me know what you think about this and these shorter formats, and see you in the next game.